Hey guys, it's Glenn from Glenn's Car Collection, and today we're driving one of my favorite cars, the Porsche 992. So this is a 2020 model, slightly used, and it's a base model. So if you follow the channel, we've been in the 992 GT3, we've driven the Turbo S, the S, the convertibles. We've never actually driven a base model, which is PDK only. So that's pretty cool. Here's one cool feature. The door handle actually opens as you approach it. We can open it right there. And this car has some cool options, which we'll go over in a minute. 911 Carrera, so this is the base Carrera, it's not the S. Now the 992s are all, let's walk around it first, they're all wide bodies, okay? So mine is a 991, I have a 2017 Miami Blue stick shift rear drive like this one, but mine is a narrow body. So for the 992s, you used to have to get a turbo or a 4S to get the wide body. Now all of them are wide body. So the 992, when it came out, I wasn't that thrilled with it. It looked like a big two-door Panamera to me. So here's some of the differences with my car is I have the slots here, but in this one you could actually count 911. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. 911. So it's a wide body car here, and we have the sport exhaust. It looks like we got the optional 20-inch wheels. 19s are standard. You still have, even though these are base brakes, so base brakes are usually this color, gray, black. The S brakes are red, and the ceramics are yellow. You put the gas here. So the only problem with putting the gas tank, which is here, and so is the battery, is you block the pump. So when you're putting gas in your car in New Jersey, you can't pump your own gas. If the gas thing was back here or over here, you're ahead of the pump. The problem is you're blocking the pump behind you when you go for gas. But a little thing to think about. I'm going to put clear side markers on my car. You could easily do that. So beautiful car. You can tell also the front grille here, the front bumper, the lights, that it's a 992. And we can look at the trunk and the engine. There's not much to see, but the trunk is very usable. So these are the two buttons, the front or the front trunk, and that's just the engine cover, which won't show you much. So we can open that here. It's a pretty deep trunk, especially on the rear drive. There's some hardware that goes through if it's an all-wheel drive car, but the rear drives have the biggest, deepest trunk. So I'm pretty much, if I take my helmet out and my skates, since I have size 13 feet, I can put my hockey bag here, and I just put the helmet, the sticks, believe it or not, and the skates in the back seat, or the sticks in the front seat, and lay them backwards. There you go. And you have a real Porsche emblem here, unlike the, say, GT3 RS, which is a sticker, so the regular emblem here. And now we'll look at the back, which isn't going to show you much. You're going to be sorely disappointed. Now, this is actually the spoiler. If you've never done this before, this is actually the spoiler, which goes up at speed. You can press the button, it'll come up. What I just loosened is here, and this is really the only thing you can see. So if you need to, put in some fluids or put in some oil, you can do it from here. Obviously, you're going to use Mobile 1. And so there's not much to show, unfortunately, and leaves always get caught back here. We'll clean those out later. All right, so let's go on the inside. Now, this car, we have the Porsche key in my pocket here, and that's kind of what I have with my car. You can get different colors. For example, Miami Blue, my friend just got a yellow GT4, and his key is yellow, so pretty cool. You can get whatever you want. Porsche will make it for you. So this car actually has the permanent key. We're going to turn it on here. Now, as I was driving over here, the lane keep assist kept beeping, and it was driving me crazy. So, all right, so now we're going to fire up the flat six. This produces 379 horsepower, so only 9 horsepower more than my car. So let's start it up. There you go. And you have the 5 gauges. So the 3 gauges are Caymans and Boxers. They wouldn't give you these last 2 gauges, just these 3. And 911s have 5, though you can't see all of them at once. This gauge in the middle we can cycle through, and it can kind of be anything we want. And even though 4 of the 5 gauges are digital, the most important, which is the tachometer with your speedometer also, because the speedometer here goes in 25 increments, and each one of these is 5. So it's very hard to tell if you're going 30 or 35. So I always use this. But this is an analog gauge, which I think is so cool. So analog surrounded by digital. That's your sport chrono, which is optional and just gives you better throttle response. This is your exhaust, which we press, and you see the difference in the sound. Listen to it. I know the air conditioning is on. Maybe let's turn that up a little bit. Air conditioning temperature so you don't hear it. All right, there we go. All right, now it's off. So listen to the exhaust. Exhaust is quiet, loud. You hear that? Quiet, loud. You can even change the chassis from normal to sport, and that'll light up certain buttons. This one has some pretty good options. So it's got the sport exhaust, the sport chrono. It has the cooled seats, the heated seats. This is the sunroof, which is above us. I think I used my sunroof once. And parking brake, so up and down right here. You can put something here for storage, probably, I don't know, a can of soda, a cup of coffee. Probably not ideal, but you could certainly put it there. You can adjust your mirrors here. Always adjust your mirrors before you buy a different car. My grandmother used to always say, Glenn, how do you drive all these cars? And I said, it's no big deal. It's still a car, you know, it's got 4 wheels and engine. Just adjust your mirrors and there you go. So you can adjust your mirrors on the side here. Memory seats, of course. There's a lane keeping thing somewhere and I don't know where it is, and I'd like to shut it off because it beeps and it drives me crazy. So here you have your drive modes. So everything is redundant. I can go on the screen here and do sport, sport plus, individual, where maybe in individual mode, I typically put everything in its most aggressive setting except for the chassis, because unless you're on a racetrack, it really gets too bumpy. And then you even have a wet mode. That's something that the 992s have over the 991. So also, you used to have to look if you had the ward for sport chrono and all those options. You can still look, but you could also get it right here. So you can go into individual, normal, sport. For the Northeast, where I live in northern New Jersey, you definitely want wet mode. And this could be an all-season car. Now remember, this is the lightest version of it. It's just a base model. It's just rear drive. And keep in mind that you can only get PDK in the base. So you have to step up to the S. So what we want to figure out today is this car an improvement over my 991.2? And would I take the base, or should you really save money for the manual? Now, we've been really lucky, thanks to DCH Acura here, for always providing these awesome cars. With them, I've driven the 992 Turbo and Turbo S. That was super fast. So let's see if this car can hold the mustard. But you basically have all the modern conveniences here. You have Apple CarPlay as well, but everything is touchscreen, so a lot of cool features. We'll keep the exhaust on. Now, we can drive in automatic modes, which we'll start out with, and then we're going to go to some curvy roads. And there, I'm going to go into manual mode, because I always like to shift by myself. So I always prefer a stick. If I can't have a stick, then I'll use the paddles. The paddles are okay. I mean, they got some heft to them. They don't feel like cheap plastic paddles that will break. I think McLaren is still my favorite paddles. All right, so we'll do a little acceleration here. Now you're buying, oh, sounds good. With that sport exhaust, it really sounds good. Now the rear spoiler won't come up until we get some speed, and honestly, for my car, I can't even see it. And the rear spoiler, I believe, if I remember correctly, at least on my 991.2, does different angles depending if you have the sunroof open or not. So in my car, when I drive my 2017, I can never see if my sunroof's closed. And I don't know about open because I've never really opened it. I can never see if that rear spoiler is up. All right, so what we're gonna do here, we're gonna make a right at this light, and then we're gonna go into some really nice S-turns. So now we're gonna go and, well, you know what? We're gonna keep it quiet till we get to those turns. All right, so now we're going to put it in manual mode. Now, it'll make a noise if we hit the white lines here or the yellow line. You hear that little noise it was making? Oh, look, 2 E60s in a row, E60 wagon. Wow, that's cool. Oh, but Tesla, of course, has to come in front of us. How rude. All right, so now we're coming up to some turns. So I'm gonna put it in Sport Plus. We're gonna have the exhaust as loud as it can go. We're gonna downshift from fourth, I'm doing this manually now, to second. And now let's see if we have some body roll. We'll see, there'll be a little area here where we can accelerate. Oh, it's even telling me what turn's coming up on the navigation here. I'll try to get a little acceleration for you so we can compare this with the Turbo and the Turbo S. And it's really hard to compare with the Turbo S because those cars are like 2.3 seconds to 60. So this car is probably about 3.9. So we're gonna have some turbo lag here. So definitely you don't get the pull on those other cars. It definitely took a couple seconds there to get going, and we did have some turbo lag. Now the PDK, remember there's no manual base. So those S-turns were fun. Let's go back and do those S-turns again. All right, because you asked me, we're gonna take those S-turns one more time. All right, so we're driving in manual mode. we're driving in Sport. Let's try Sport Plus. Sport Plus now. We got the exhaust the loudest, the shocks the stiffest. Now this is rear drive, as you remember. Now you buy this car, the base model, more for the handling than the outright speed. Nice. And it's giving us very aggressive shifts. It can shift smoothly, no problem. But it's obviously, we're in sport mode. We're gonna go past some people here, so we're gonna drive quietly. We'll drive in normal mode. All right, so now we're driving in the automatic mode, and at 32 miles an hour, it has us in 5th gear, obviously for gas mileage. So let's go back into manual mode by just pressing the M button on the center console. And it already had brought us up to 6th at 37 miles an hour. So we'll downshift here. The PDK is fantastic. So if you want a PDK car, I would get the newest car you could possibly afford, because it's such a difference. Every generation is such a difference from the generation before. All right, so now that we stopped at a traffic light, we have the automatic shutoff comes up. This would be a great time to subscribe. Hit that notification bell, because only 10% of you have hit it, and like and share these videos, and leave a comment in every video. That helps me out so much. A like and a comment in every single video. That's much appreciated. So a 992 or any 911 is so much fun just standing still. You have plenty of acceleration. You have some great sounds with the exhaust. That's Long Beach Blue. That, I guess it was an X6M. You could really hear the exhaust on this car, which is great for just a base model. So which would I buy? If I was buying a 992, of course, I would want a GT3. With your money, I would take the GT3, no contest. With my own money, I would take the base model and tune it. You can make just as much power as an S for an ECU tune, get even a better sounding exhaust, but though I would probably keep with this as a daily driver, and you'd have one great car that you could pick up your kids if they're toddlers, take it to work every day, put a set of snow tires. Even though being rear drive, I would still probably go with the rear drive model and just put snow tires. Living here in the Northeast, you could do track days, and this car is so much fun, so comfortable, so reliable. So that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you were spending your money, would you get the base and tune it, or would you save up for the S? If I had the money, I would get the S with the manual transmission. The S feels twice as fast as this car with PDK. I haven't driven a manual S car yet, but this is still a phenomenal car. And I would, the cheapest way into a 992 is a base. And if you really need more power, and I mean, it's pretty quick, then you could easily do it with just a pretty simple tune. All right, guys, thanks. That's for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.